Although I normally wait quite a while after a game releases before making any guides, I've quickly become addicted to Zenless Zone Zero, and I realized it may be helpful to have a full breakdown of all the systems, menus, and small nuances for anyone wanting to get started. Whether you're brand new to the game or you just want a refresher for different mechanics, I hope this video will be a helpful guide to the incredibly fun world of Zenless Zone Zero. If you haven't unlocked all the systems and menus in this video, don't worry. I've timestamped this entire video, so please feel free to skip around as you like, and you can always return to those sections later once you've unlocked them. Without further ado, here is everything you need to know to play Zenless Zone Zero. Whenever you engage in combat, you will control a team of 3 characters who you can swap between to take down your opponents. Although each character's individual strengths and abilities will differ, every character has the same basic skills that you can use. The most versatile move that your characters have is their basic attack. Pressing the basic attack button will launch an attack at nearby opponents, and because the game ensures that you auto-lock onto nearby opponents, simply tapping the basic attack button will drag you towards the nearest opponent, which is extremely helpful. Every basic attack will charge your character's EX attack, which is a more powerful ability that your character can unleash once their EX bar has enough energy. You can check to see how much energy your character has accumulated by looking at the character's information panel in the top left of the screen. Once this bar starts glowing, you have enough energy to unleash a powerful EX attack against your opponents. Do keep in mind that some characters benefit greatly from waiting to activate their EX skill, as they will unleash a more powerful move when there is more energy to spend. So play around with your characters to see what kind of moves they can unleash with different amounts of EX energy. Not only are EX skills powerful abilities, but most characters are also invulnerable when using their EX skills, which can be really handy in the middle of a battle. If an enemy tries to attack your character, you can press the dodge button to duck out of the way, which can keep your characters safely out of range from enemy attacks. In addition, if you dodge right before an enemy launches an attack, you will perform a perfect dodge, temporarily slowing down the world around you as you dodge away from the enemy. Not only this, but if you immediately activate a basic attack after you have perfectly dodged, you will launch right back at the enemy with a powerful strike, which is a ton of fun to do. There are 2 main ways you can reliably activate a perfect dodge. Right before most enemy attacks, there will be a bright flash of light. And if you're in range, you can immediately hit the dodge button to perform a perfect dodge. You can also perform perfect dodges by carefully watching enemy behavior, as some attacks will be telegraphed with gray circles or rectangles on the ground, and you can perfectly dodge out of the way if you spot them in time. However, dodging is only one tool in your arsenal. Right before an enemy launches an attack, you can hit the assist button to quickly swap between allies, which will unleash a powerful reaction to your opponent's attack. If an enemy flashes gold right before their attack, hitting the assist button will create a perfect assist, which will either parry against that enemy attack as a defensive assist, or slow down time to dish out damage as an evasive perfect assist. Both of these perfect assists are powerful effects, as they will allow your characters to deal tons of damage in response to an enemy attack. If an enemy flashes red right before their attack, hitting the assist button will create a dodge assist, which will swap into your next character and automatically perform a perfect dodge. Even though this isn't as immediately powerful as a perfect assist, dodge assists are still a great way to deal with opponent attacks, while setting your characters up to hit back after that dodge assist. If you miss the timing of an enemy's attack and the enemy strikes your character, that is completely okay, because you can still hit the assist button to swap into another character for a quick assist. Quick assists can be a great way of getting back into a fight and punching back at the enemy that just hit your characters. You can also activate a quick assist right after a character buffs your team, which will then launch your next character into battle with a powerful buff behind them. Zenless Zone Zero is also spectacular at telling you when an assist can be performed, either through a bright flash, telegraphing an enemy attack, or a quickly pulsing character icon in the lower right corner. Using a combination of dodges and assists is your recipe for success during combat. You don't want to rely solely on one or the other, as they both have excellent utility during the course of a battle. Before we talk about chain attacks and ultimates, we'll want to talk about enemy status bars and how to use them to your advantage during a battle. Enemies have 3 status bars that you'll want to monitor during battle: health, daze, and anomaly. Just like your characters, an enemy's health bar indicates how much health it has before it's defeated. Certain abilities can also grant temporary shields to characters or enemies, which will appear as this bright blue section on the health bar. However, at the time of raiding, relatively few skills can create shields, so for the most part, you will simply see a green health bar on your characters or enemies. Right below the enemy health bar is their Daze meter. This bar will fill up every time your characters land attacks on the enemy, and once it's completely full, the enemy will become stunned, preventing them from acting for a brief period of time. Not only will stunned enemies take more damage, but if you hit a stunned enemy with an EX attack or the last hit of a basic attack combo, you will trigger a chain attack. Chain attacks are extremely powerful, then will create a prompt on the screen for you to quickly swap between your characters to deal blasts of damage. As a result, chain attacks can be a great tool in your arsenal for chewing through enemy health bars as soon as they are stunned, particularly since they will take more damage until their Daze meter recovers. You can always see how long an enemy will be stunned by looking at the countdown timer on the Daze meter. Keeping an eye on enemy Daze meters is your key to success, as you'll deal more damage to your opponents when they're stunned, and you can trigger these powerful chain attacks. In addition to chain attacks, your team can also unleash an ultimate attack to deal massive damage to your opponents. Landing attacks on your enemies will charge up your team's ultimate, and once your ultimate is ready, you will need to decide which character to use for it. Unlike other attacks, you can only choose one character to unleash an ultimate, so think very carefully before activating this move. In most circumstances, you'll want to wait to unleash your ultimate until an enemy is stunned, as you'll deal the most damage to them this way. But you can also use your ultimate at any time to quickly wipe out enemies or chew through enemy health bars. Besides the health bar and the Daze meter, the last enemy bar that you'll want to monitor is the Anomaly meter. Whenever you hit an opponent with an elemental attack, the Anomaly meter will start to fill up. And if you continue hitting that enemy with the same element you will trigger an anomaly, which will produce a powerful effect. Although only one anomaly meter is displayed at a time, the game tracks anomaly buildup for all elements in the background. So if you hit the same enemy with multiple elements, you can actually trigger multiple anomalies at once. When more than one anomaly triggers, this creates a powerful effect called Disorder, which deals frankly absurd amounts of damage. However, this can be tricky to pull off, since you have to carefully build up two elements until they're almost ready to trigger. That being said, as you get more familiar with triggering anomalies, you can intentionally try to trigger multiple at the same time to produce enormous amounts of damage. All enemies have elemental weaknesses, which means that triggering an anomaly can unleash tremendous damage all on its own, but anomalies can also increase the damage taken by your enemies, such as temporarily increasing the crit damage received by an enemy, or increasing the amount of daze inflicted on that opponent. As a result, hitting enemies with elemental attacks and triggering anomalies is a powerful tool for taking down your opponents during battle. All characters will deal elemental damage with their EX attacks, as well as assists, chain attacks, and ultimates. But you can also trigger elemental damage from basic attacks, either by holding down the basic attack button or hitting a particular sequence of attacks on an opponent. Learning your character's elemental attacks will help you deal even more damage during a battle, so make sure to practice with your characters to learn their moves. Speaking of which, once you've unlocked the HIA Club, you will also unlock the VR device back at the video store, which is an insanely useful feature for testing out characters. The VR device will teach you the skills for all currently released characters, including limited characters, and you can also test out different team comps within the free training section. This VR device is your best friend for improving at this game, and I've found myself frequently returning to the tutorials to test out characters and solidify my knowledge of their moves. In addition to elemental types, characters are also divided into classes based on their roles on your team. There are 5 classes in the game: Attack, Stun, Anomaly, Support, and Defense. Just like the name implies, attack characters deal enormous amounts of damage to your opponents. Because there are a lot of attack characters in the game, most teams tend to have one attack character on them, but they are not the only characters who can dish out damage during a battle. Stun characters will quickly fill an enemy's daze meter, allowing you to rapidly deal damage during a fight, whereas anomaly characters will rapidly fill an enemy's anomaly meter to trigger anomaly reactions. Although most of your damage will be done by attack, stun, and anomaly characters, support and defense characters are important facilitators for increasing your team's overall damage. Support characters create massive buffs for your teammates, which include big attack increases or even pinning enemies down so that your other characters can wail on them. Defense characters, on the other hand, will keep your team up and moving, providing temporary shields during battle and punching back at enemies with enormous parries. If you're not sure which characters to put on your team, or you simply want to maximize your damage, you can build your teams around your character's passive bonuses. Every character has a passive ability that will activate if you pair them with one other ally of the same element, class, or faction. And if all 3 of your team members activate their passives, then they will dish out even more damage during the course of a battle. You can check which passives are active and what requirements are still needed by expanding this smiley face icon in the upper right corner of the team building screen. Every passive that is activated will have one smiley face, and if all 3 of your team members have their passives active, then this icon will reflect 3 out of 3 next to the smiley face. Most characters in the game only require one other character with the same element or faction to activate their passives, so that makes team building considerably easier as a result. If you don't have that many characters yet, you can also just pair characters together even if you don't have all of their passives active. However, as your roster expands, you'll find a lot more possibilities for making your team even more powerful. So, you've decided what characters you want to run on your team. Now it's time to level them up and provide them with equipment before you head into battle. You can view your characters and level up their stats within the Agents menu. There are 3 separate tabs that you'll want to examine: Stats, Skills, and Equipment. The Stats screen is where you'll find all the information about a character's element, class, current level, and damage stats. Some of these terms that you'll see on the stats screen are self-explanatory, like HP, defense, and attack. But some of these other terms deserve a little bit of an explanation. Crit rate and crit damage affect how frequently your character is able to deal critical damage. Crit rate and crit damage are the most important for attack characters, since they're the ones who will benefit the most from dealing critical damage. The other stat that is great for attack characters is pen ratio. This refers to defense penetration, meaning that the pen ratio stat refers to how much of an enemy's defense is ignored when your character attacks. As a result, crit rate, crit damage, and pen ratio are very powerful on your attack characters. Besides these stats, the impact stat affects how quickly you fill up the Daze meter on your enemies. So a high impact score is good on stun characters, since they're already trying to fill up that stun meter. Anomaly Mastery and Anomaly Proficiency are both fantastic for Anomaly characters, with Anomaly Mastery affecting how quickly that Anomaly meter builds up, and Anomaly Proficiency increasing the damage dealt once that anomaly is triggered. Last but not least, the energy regeneration stat will increase the amount of energy that you gain with every attack on an opponent, meaning that the higher the energy regeneration stat is, the more frequently you'll be able to activate your EX skills. Now that we've defined these terms, let's start leveling up our characters so that we can improve some of these stats and get our characters in fighting shape. When you have a character that you want to run, your very first priority is to increase their overall level in this stat screen. You will need a material called Investigator Logs to raise a character's level, which you can obtain from the basic material domains at the HIA Club, or you can also obtain them as a reward just for completing missions. Every 10 levels, you will also need certification seals, which you can also obtain from the HIA Club by running agent promotion domains. Once you've raised your character's base level, we can now take a look at these other 2 tabs in the leveling screen. For now, we will skip the Skills tab and move straight to the Equipment tab, since that will be your next priority for leveling. Every character can equip a W engine, which will provide powerful stat boosts and special passive abilities throughout combat. Because engines provide such a huge stat boost to your characters, equipping them and leveling them up will be your second highest priority. Just like character classes, engines are categorized by class type. And although you can technically equip whatever engine you want, you will lose out on valuable passive abilities if you don't pick engines that correspond to your character's class. Thankfully, all the engines that correspond to your character's class will appear at the top of this menu. So just stick to these engines and you'll be set to go. When it comes to selecting an engine, do keep in mind that they come in 3 different rarities: B, A, and S, with S having the largest stat bonuses and effects. However, if you don't have an S-ranked engine to equip, don't worry, because there are some great A and B rarity engines that you can use instead. For attack characters, here are several fantastic A-ranked engines shown on screen, as well as how you can obtain them. For stun characters, these are some of the A-rank and B-ranked engines that are spectacular. Whereas for Anomaly characters, there are unfortunately fewer good B engines, but these are fantastic A-rank engines that you can run. For support characters, there are a ton of great B-rank engines. In particular, these 2 are fantastic. And last but not least, for defense characters, these A and B rank engines shown on screen are spectacular. In addition to these engines, every single character has a signature engine that will grant them massive stat buffs and passive abilities tailored to that character. So definitely equip them if you ever happen to obtain one. Once you've found an engine and equipped it to your character, you can then focus on leveling that engine. You can level engines with Engine EXP material, which are obtained from the basic material domains at the HIA Club. And every 10 levels, you'll need engine components, which can be obtained from the engine domains at the HIA Club. If you ever obtain multiple copies of the same engine, you can use those copies to enhance an engine, making its passive effects even more powerful. Do note that for S-ranked engines, it might not always be the best idea to enhance them, as you can always use multiple copies of an engine on different characters. But just know that this is a feature that is available if you happen to obtain multiple engines of the same type and you want to enhance them together. Now that we've equipped our engine and leveled it up, it's time to switch to the skill tab, which will be our next priority for leveling. The skills tab is where you'll level up your character's skills, which include their passive ability, as well as their basic attack, dodge, assist, EX skill, and chain attack / ultimate, which is combined into this here. For the vast majority of characters, your top priority is to level their passive ability, which is also known as their core skill. Leveling this up will enhance your character's most powerful passive abilities. You can level up core passive skills with dimensional data, which are resources obtained from expert challenges at the HIA Club. Once you reach high enough levels, core passive skills will require additional leveling material from the notorious hunt challenges at the Scott Outpost. After leveling up a character's passive core skill, you can then focus on their other skills. The leveling materials for character skills can be obtained from the agent skill domains at the HIA Club. Depending on your character's class, the leveling priority of their skills will be slightly different, but as a general rule of thumb, here's some basic guidelines for skill leveling. For attack characters, leveling up their EX skill, basic attack, and chain attack ultimate take the highest priority. After that, leveling up an attack character's dodge will take your next priority, but make sure to focus on those EX skills, basic attacks, and chain attacks first. For stun characters, leveling up their EX skill, basic attack, and assist are your first priorities. as this will fill up enemy Daze meters the most. Just like with attack characters, dodge and chain attacks are still useful stats to level for stun characters, but you will fill up enemy Daze meters faster by prioritizing EX skills, basic attacks, and assists. For Anomaly characters, leveling up their EX skill, basic attack, and chain attack are your highest priorities, after which you can focus on assists and dodge as you see fit. For support and defense characters, leveling up their EX skill is your first priority, after which you can focus on basic attacks, chain attacks, and assists. Since the EX skill is your highest priority, support and defense characters are much cheaper to build, and that is wonderful news for filling out your roster. Do note that bringing any skill past level 7 is rather expensive, so until you have the resources to do so, I would just recommend focusing your energy on leveling skills up to 7, as this will still increase the power of your characters without breaking the bank. Once you've leveled up your character's skills, it's time to return to the equipment tab to talk about drive disks. For much of the early game, you should not worry too much about drive disks. Your highest priority will always be leveling your character, equipment, and skills. But if you're ready for a power spike in your character's abilities, it's time to focus on drive disks. Drive disks grant powerful buffs to your characters, increasing everything from crit rate and damage to the amount of daze and elemental damage you deal to opponents. However, these buffs will only become active if you equip either 2 or 4 discs from the same set, which means you'll need to carefully equip discs of corresponding sets in order to take advantage of their effects. In addition to these set bonuses, all discs come with 1 main stat and up to 4 substats, and it is completely random what those substats will be. In the early game, don't worry too much about what these substats are. You can always grind domains for better substats later on, but just focus on the set bonuses and main stats for your drive discs. Every character can equip 6 discs at a time, with discs 1 through 3 having a fixed main stat, HP for disc 1, attack for disc 2, and defense for disc 3, whereas discs 4 through 6 will have variable main stats. This means that you don't have to worry too much about discs 1 through 3. It's mainly discs 4 through 6 that you want to try and get good main stats for. Figuring out which discs to pair with each other is the source of much theory crafting, and you can dive as deep as you want to find optimal combinations. However, if you aren't sure where to start, or you feel pretty reasonably overwhelmed by figuring out which sets to pair with each other, here are some basic recommendations for different character classes. I'll quickly show on screen the drive disc sets and the main stats to look for on your characters, so please feel free to pause the video if you want to look at these in more detail. I'll also be posting all of these graphics on Twitter as well as my Discord server for anyone who wants hard copies of this or the engine information. For attack characters, these are the best universal drive disc pairings, as well as the main stats that you'll be looking for on discs 4 through 6. Whereas for stun characters, this is a great drive disc set, as well as the main stats to look for on discs 4 through 6. For anomaly characters, here are fantastic drive disc sets, and the main stats to pair them with on discs 4 through 6. And for support characters, these disc sets are incredible, as are these main stats on discs 4 through 6. And finally, for defense characters, this is a fantastic drive disc set, as well as some main stats to look for on discs 4 through 6. Just like with engines, discs come in rarities B, A, and S. But unlike engines, there is a pretty substantial benefit to disregarding B-ranked discs, as you can level A and S rank discs much higher than B ranks. However, if you're just starting out, it's perfectly okay to equip B-ranked discs. Just don't worry about leveling them up too much, since you'll be able to replace them with better A and S-ranked discs later on. You can level drive discs with plating agents, which are obtained from the basic material domains at the HIA Club. As for the drive discs themselves, you can obtain them from routine cleanup missions at the Scott Outpost, or from Elfie's Bardic Needle music store. At higher InterKnot levels, you can even craft drive discs in specific disc slots. And at InterKnot level 40, you can even specify which main stat you want on your discs. So make sure to visit Elfie's music store. We've talked a lot about how to play and level up your characters, but how do you actually go about obtaining characters and engines? Most characters and engines in this game can be obtained from the Gacha system, which you can access in the Signal search option. Characters are divided into A and S ranks, with S-ranked characters being extremely powerful, but you can also get plenty of fantastic A-rank characters from your pulls. Unfortunately, like all MiHoYo games, there are several different types of gacha currency and banners, which can make things really confusing when you're first starting out. I'll try to break this down as best as possible. Each gacha banner works in a similar way. You can make pulls on these banners to obtain engines and characters, but it is in your best interest to make 10 pulls at a time, because you're guaranteed to get an A-rank engine or character every 10 pulls. You also have a small chance of obtaining an S rank during your pulls, but if you haven't obtained an S rank by the time you reach a banner's pity, then you'll get an S rank in your next set of pulls. Thankfully, each banner will tell you how many pulls you have left until pity, which is extremely helpful. However, one important thing to note is that just because you reach pity, this does not guarantee that you will receive the S rank that you want. You will have a 50-50 chance of getting the banner's S rank at your first pity. This means that if you lose that 50-50 chance and you don't get a limited character on a banner, you'll have to roll up to 90 more pulls to guarantee them. For this reason, if you really want a particular character, you should try to save up 180 pulls to guarantee them. But know that all characters will have reruns in the future, so you can just save up for them later if you can't snag them now. In addition, unlike gacha games like Blue Archive, banner pity actually transfers from one banner to the next. So if you lose the 50-50 on one banner, the banner will remember that, and it will calculate how many pulls you still have until the next S rank. There are 3 gacha banners that are available at the start of the game. The exclusive banner is at the top, which is a limited banner, and it will only be available for 3 weeks. A powerful limited S-rank character will be available on this exclusive banner. Do keep in mind that even though this is a character banner, you can still pull engines off of this banner. So if you're looking to increase the number of engines that you have, you can still make pulls on character banners to get engines as well. And know that you can also just make pulls to get the A-rank characters on the banner. Below the limited exclusive banner is the engine banner. I'm going to be completely frank here. For your average player, you do not need to roll on this banner. I don't care how powerful these engines are. They use the same gacha currency as the character banners, and characters are much more valuable to pull. You will still receive engines from your character pulls, so for most players, I would recommend just ignoring this banner entirely and saving your pulls. Right below the engine banner is the stable banner, which you can think of as a permanent banner with a ton of characters on it. There are 6 different S-rank characters that you can pull on this banner, and a bunch of A-ranks, so whenever the game gives you pulls for this banner, go ahead and use them. In fact, when you first start the game, every new player will be able to pull an S-rank character within 40 pulls on the stable banner, which is absolutely incredible. And not only this, but once you've made 300 pulls on the stable banner, you'll be able to select which of these S-rank characters you want, which is spectacular. When you're first starting out, make sure to take advantage of the guaranteed S rank on this banner. And then, whenever quests give you pulls for this banner, you can spend them to get more characters and engines. If you ever obtain a copy of a character, you can use those copies to unlock powerful new passives for that character. Within the agent menu, you can select the Cinema tab, which is in the lower left-hand corner. Most characters are completely playable right out of the box without extra copies, especially S-ranked characters, so don't feel obligated to pull for extra copies. If you happen to get extra copies, rejoice! For you will be rewarded with fun new buffs and abilities, but you don't need these to still have fun with your characters. Now that we've talked about these banners, let's talk about the currency that you'll use for them. Most quests and achievements in the game will give you Polychrome, which is the most basic gacha currency in the game. Polychrome can be used on any character or engine banner, but I would suggest only using it on the limited exclusive banner, since you will get tons of regular pulls for the stable banner just by playing the game. If you want to more easily see how many pulls you have, as well as ensure that your Polychrome is only usable for the limited banner, you can convert your Polychrome into encrypted master tapes by going to the 24-hour store, selecting the Signal Shop tab, and then going to Master Tape Exchange. Alternatively, you don't even need to use the 24-hour shop. You can just hold on to all your Polychrome without converting it, and whenever you make pulls on the limited banner, you can just have the game automatically convert Polychrome into encrypted tapes. Just be careful not to use your Polychrome on the stable channel, since it's a bit of a waste, and you can better use it on limited banners. Last but not least, after you reach InterKnot level 20, you will also unlock this Bangboo banner and the ability to add Bangboo to your teams. Bangboo are extremely adorable, autonomous beings that will assist you during battle. Bangboo will serve as an additional member of your party, where they can perform chain attacks as well as provide buffs during the course of battle. They can even do a little bit of damage themselves, which is fantastic. You can obtain new Bangboo from events, as well as this Bangboo banner. Unlike the other banners we've talked about, where there's a 50-50 chance that you'll get the S rank that you want, you can select exactly which S rank Bangboo you want ahead of time. And whenever you pull an S rank, you will get that exact Bangboo. The gacha currency for this banner is called Boopons, and you can only get them from quests, events, and weekly rewards. So just take your time accumulating them and pulling for the Bangboo that you want. If you want to level up your Bangboo, you can visit the Remodeling shop on 6th Street, where you'll be able to raise your Bangboo's base stats and unlock extra buffs if you have multiple copies of a Bangboo. Bangboo leveling materials can be obtained from Hollow Zero and the 141 convenience store. Beyond combat and character builds, there is a wonderful overworld within Zenless Zone Zero. However, I know this part of the game can be a little overwhelming since there are a lot of menus and people to interact with. So I will walk you through my daily and weekly routine for Zenless in case it's helpful for navigating new Eridu. Every day that I log in, I'll have 240 energy that I can use for obtaining level up materials and equipment. However, before spending any of that energy, I will first head to the coffee shop, where I can drink coffee to gain 60 extra energy and extra reward drops for one battle. Once I've picked up my coffee and enjoyed this delightful animation from the Tin Master, I'll swing by General Chop's shop next door to grab some noodles and enjoy another incredible animation, which will give me an attack bonus for my upcoming battles. Now that I've got my coffee and noodles, it's time to spend some energy. If I'm trying to level up characters, I'll head to the HIA Club. If I'm grinding for skill, engine, or general leveling materials, I'll talk to Bertha on the left. Bertha will have most of the domains for leveling, but if I want to level up passive core skills for characters, I will want to talk to Lila at the other end of the counter, where I can run expert domains that drop materials for passive core leveling. If all of my characters are leveled, or I just want to grind for drive discs instead, I can skip the HIA entirely and just head to the Scott Outpost, where I'll want to use my energy on routine cleanup, as this will drop drive discs from particular sets. Once you've used up all your energy, if you still want to keep grinding for more materials or to level up your characters, you can recharge your energy with a resource called Ether Batteries. You will get Ether Batteries by completing quests and events in the game, but I would still suggest using them sparingly. You can also use Polychrome to refresh your energy, but don't do this. Just use the Ether Batteries if you're going to do this at all. Once I've spent my energy for the day, I'll head back to the video store to talk to Bangboo 18, who is such a good boy, where I will collect some rewards from the shop's previous day and then get the video store ready for business. I'll pick which character I want to promote my business and what videotapes I want to promote. Once I've opened up the store with Bangboo 18, I'll head out to 6th Street to talk to Howl at the newsstand, where I'll use my adorable daily scratch card and read through today's news in New Eridu. If you've reached Chapter 3 of the main story, you can also invite 3 characters to hang out with you each day, which will increase their trust with you and unlock adorable story moments with them. By this point, I'll have completed all my dailies. I'll first select the new Eridu Fund menu, and I'll collect my daily rewards. The new Eridu Fund is the same thing as a battle pass, and you can still get fantastic rewards without spending any money on this. If you do feel financially stable and you want to support the game while getting extra rewards, I just recommend going with the basic growth plan. The premium plan is more expensive and primarily just gives you aesthetic upgrades. So unless you want these aesthetic upgrades, you can just ignore it. Once you've collected your rewards from the new Eridu Fund, you can collect your other daily rewards from the Compendium menu. Your daily rewards can be collected in the Errands tab. As for what to do next, that brings us to our weekly schedule. From this Errands tab, you can pick 2 actions to add to your schedule for the week, all of which are extremely easy to achieve. As for the rest of the week, I'll head to Scott Outpost to run most of my weekly grinds. I'll make sure to run Notorious Hunt 3 times, and I'll also spend a few days completing my weekly missions for Hollow Zero. Once I've completed Notorious Hunt and Hollow Zero, I'll check out Shiyu Defense and see if I can get any further in the current frontier. Do note that Shiyu Defense is some of the hardest content in the game, and it does require multiple full teams at higher levels, so don't feel like you have to complete this. Just give this your best shot and try to get as far as you can. And if you do really enjoy this game mode, there is more content to unlock as you get further through it. After doing this, I'll see if I have any story quests or events to do. You can access your events here in the event menu, and you can view your story quests in the InterKnot menu under the schedule tab. There are different times of day that are noted on this screen, and that's because different overworld quests can happen at different times during the day. You can progress time forward by completing missions or consuming energy. Whenever you progress past midnight, your player character will sleep for the night, and it will become morning again, which is a rather adorable feature. And that is my weekly routine for this game. I hope that this has been a helpful look into the world of Zenless Zone Zero. Beyond everything I've said up to this point, I've also got some additional tips and tricks that will hopefully make your gaming experience as fun as possible. Although you can't adjust the difficulty of story battles, you can adjust the difficulty of overworld combat. You can select this option in the upper right corner to lower the levels of your enemies. If your characters aren't fully leveled and equipped, I would highly recommend lowering the levels of your enemies just to make your fights much smoother. If you're on a PC, you can toggle between keyboard and controller inputs without needing to go into your game settings. You can simply hit Escape on your keyboard or Start on your controller, and it will automatically toggle between the two. This even works in the login menu, which is great if your PC forgets which mode you were using last time. In the character select menu, I would recommend turning on Quick Configure, since it will let you select multiple characters at once for your party, instead of individually selecting them. There are a lot of shops in New Eridu and a lot of things to buy, so here are the top things I would recommend saving up for at various shops. I would recommend saving up residual signals for the S-rank engines that are in this shop. Within the Fading Signals shop, you can pick up skill materials, and at the beginning of every month, you can also obtain discounted pulls from this store. In the Bang Buck shop, I would suggest saving up for the Marcel modified part, because it is very good for leveling up your S-ranked Bangboo. In the overworld of New Eridu, I would suggest stopping by 141 convenience store once a week to grab leveling material for your characters. You can also swing by the Gadget store, which is where you can pick up a bunch of fantastic B and A ranked engines. The currency needed to purchase these engines comes from Notorious Hunt, as well as running engine component domains at the HIA. And last but not least, you can stop by the Scott Outpost and talk to Casper outside, where you can use currency from Hollow Zero, Notorious Hunt, and Shiyu Defense to snag gacha pulls and drive disk modification materials for Elfie's shop. Speaking of Elfie's shop, this is another reminder to stop by her shop to pick up drive disks and to hang out with one of the coolest people in New Eridu. And with that, that's everything you need to know to play Zenless Zone Zero and make the most out of your gaming experience. If there are additional tips to share or updates from new patches, I'll try to list those in a pinned comment below. If you enjoyed listening to me talk about Zenless Zone Zero and you want to learn more about the story of this game, then feel free to check out my live stream playlist. Thank you for joining me during this gameplay guide, and I wish you safe travels on the streets of New Eridu.